All right, Nick Wright is here, Fox Sports 1, his all-world podcast. What's going on, buddy?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. I think you have the best intro in sports podcasts.
Just get to it. Just get to it.
Let's go. And so I want to get, can I get to what I texted you?
Yeah, please.
So I am annoyed at the commentary surrounding the Chiefs. I am outright furious at the commentary surrounding Mahomes. Not with you in the general sports media.
Yeah, no, sure.
So let's start with the Chiefs for a second. Then we get to Mahomes. Kevin, you're a man of many talents, many sports.
Thank you.
Cover golf.
Sure.
You love the Magic. I assume you dress like a man who pretends to like European soccer. You have a lot. There's a lot. Has there ever in the history of sports been a two-time defending champion that brought back the same coach, the best player, has the best record, has had one of three teams that has had no terrible offensive games, is the only team that's had no terrible defensive games, and the narrative the entire year has been, what's wrong with them? Here's the four other teams better than them. Hey, you know what team's gotten infinitely better press this year? The Baltimore Ravens, who are really awesome and fun to watch. They just lose a third of their games. I've never seen it in sports. I've never seen the two-time defending champion with the best record in the league. The entirety of the conversation is, I don't feel those warm and fuzzies when they win the way I used to, so it's not good. It's so dumb, and it angers me.
Thank you for coming on the show. Does it not? Let's poke holes in this. So I generally agree with you because nobody understands winning time like this team. And we had Andrew Whitworth on Tuesday, and we talked about how Mahomes can just flip this switch. Kelsey can just flip this switch. And the things they do, I mean, it's almost supernatural, right? And I've told the story before, but I went on a podcast, Bill Simmons' podcast in August, and I talked about how the coolest thing in sports is in a big moment, how Kelsey just sits down in zone, finds these holes, and then just falls over for like the biggest, gotta have it 4th and 2 in the world, right?
Yep.
And an NFL head coach texted me and said, if I could see anything, it would be, I want to see what those plays look like in the playbook. Just like, because it's basketball on grass. It's a two-man game of just like, hey, this is a $25 billion sport. Everybody this combined rosters here are $300 million. Both coaches are making $9 million a year. And it's all going to come down to on 4th and 2, season on the line. Patrick Mahomes is going to find the one guy we know what he's going to do. He's going to go out and he's going to run a little 3-yard out, fall down, and get the ball. Like it is a incredibly complicated sport made so simple. So I completely agree with you that they'll find the winning time. But does it not worry you that they're not scoring 30 points? Does it not worry you that Mahomes has the ankle? Does it not worry you that they seem to have not found their offensive identity? So
listen, if Mahomes gets actually hurt, obviously everything changes. I think he's fine. I don't think there is a perfect team in 2024 NFL. Great. My frustration is this. The Lions, who've never won anything, and have a bunch of players who've never won anything, and had a double-digit lead in the NFC Championship game and blew it, and then they beat the Jags with Mac Jones by 46 points, and now they are the standard. They then, of course, now all of a sudden look like a very wounded team whose coach at times seems to be like, there's a chance he's played an actual game of Russian roulette. Like, I just feel it, man. I'm not going to die to but everyone's like, no, it's fine. Goff, Campbell, that'll work. They were the team of the moment. And now, of course, as is every December, every single year, it's the Bills' turn. And the Bills are awesome. And people were way too down on the Bills before the year. The same reason they were too high on them previous years, which is they overrated the talent of the players that are no longer there. The reason people thought the Bills were some juggernaut a few years ago is because they thought Poyer, Hyde, and Diggs were better than they are. The reason people thought the Bills weren't going to be as good this year is because Poyer, Hyde, and Diggs, they thought were better than they were. But the Bills now are the team of the moment. It's like, how can you beat the Bills? I'm like, I don't know. They lost 8 days ago. That's a way to beat them. And so it is a little frustrating that we talk about the Ravens. I'll use them as an example. Our friend Ben Solak, Lamar Jackson is the MVP this year, last year, and forever. He wrote that. Whenever they lose, you know what the entire analysis is? Why'd they give the ball to Lamar so much? Let Derrick Henry have it, and they lose a lot. And so it's just, if all of the teams were negged, that'd be fine. Instead, it's the team that has earned the biggest benefit of the doubt and has the best record. Like, I am a team record is a team stat. I know you are as well. Yeah. And then we have gotten after, and this is the part that actually angers me, after everyone in the media took a solemn oath, I'll never make this mistake again. It took them a month of awesome football, and they're making the mistake again, which is, man, is actually the best quarterback alive debate a debate? Let's have it. And in fact, when you look at it, it's not a debate. It's one guy, and it's not the guy with all the MVPs, all the championships, all the playoff success. And that is an insult to the audience's intelligence that everyone's participating in. And it makes me angry.
Okay, I want to push back on one thing. I do think we have seen something like this since the Belichick and Brady Patriots, which every October we'd go, I don't know.
Because they lost games.
Yeah.
That's the other, you'd be like in October, they're 3-2, and then they'd reel off. This team but go ahead, sorry, as you were.
No, I'm just saying at some point in that run, they became take proof. And it was almost like nobody wanted to talk about them because we knew what was going to happen in January. I feel like a similar thing is happening with the Chiefs where they're take proof. And so it's not necessarily the people who are doubting them. It's the people who are just putting them in this little bucket that is completely impervious to normal takes. So we can't debate them. That's why they're being overlooked. It's hard to debate the Chiefs because no matter what they do, they win the Super Bowl. Okay, so I would agree with that, except your friends and my friends at Caesars Sportsbook and all the sports books are saying, no, actually, they have the fourth best chance to win the Super Bowl. This is something people are actually buying into. But can we talk about who's the best quarterback alive? Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Do you think that is a debatable point?
I think that right now. So first of all, let's put the ankle injury aside. I think right now, if you wanted a quarterback for Sunday, and let's assume Mahomes is healthy, I think there are people in this world who can debate credibly that Josh Allen would be a better pick.
Okay. So this is what I want to get into. Because listen, obviously Mahomes is not having the best year. Allen's having a better year. Lamar's having a better year. Depending on how you value quarterback wins or not, Burrow's having a better year. My guy Baker, by any fair metric, he's top 6 in everything, a better year. Okay. That's a separate thing. Here is my root, because that's not what people are saying. What I just said. What people are saying is Josh Allen's better. And a month ago there was, some real Lamar momentum. And so I just want to quickly, and then we can do the things you actually had scheduled. You invited me on the show. I wanted to. All right. So just a quick recap of how this argument's gone. So 2018, Mahomes bursts on the scene, wins MVP. We've never seen anything like it. And then plays the up to that point greatest player ever. The greatest player ever wins. And it's like, yeah, Tom Brady's still the GOAT, right? 2019, Brady has a down year. Mahomes wins the Super Bowl. Lamar bursts onto the scene, but has an unfortunate playoff game. And it's like, okay, this is a real discussion. 2020, it looks like, Mahomes is just taking it from everyone. Brady's in Tampa. And then Brady beats him again, and they go on that surge. And it's like, Tom Brady. And meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers is like, don't forget about me, fellas. And then in 2021, one of the craziest turn of events in NFL history happens, which is Patrick beats Josh Allen in an epic game. Joe Burrow then beats Patrick, and Matt Stafford then beats Joe Burrow. And the person who came out looking the best of all four is the guy who lost first, and the person who got the least credit for that playoff run was the guy who held the trophy. It was really weird, but it's what happened. Nobody got more credit for losing to the guy that lost to the guy that lost to the guy than Josh did. And in 2022, Tyreek Hill is gone. Mahomes is coming off the worst half of football of his career. Josh Allen's never been more firing. Rodgers in the midst of MVPs, and Brady just almost won the previous year's MVP after winning the Super Bowl. And it's like, wow, we have a real debate about who the best quarterback alive is. It was a real one. And then that season, Mahomes won everything.
Yep.
Most yards ever, most points for the season, most yards for the season of anyone that year. MVP, beat Joe Burrow, and Rodgers is done. Brady is done. And it's like, okay, it's Patrick. And then last year, there was real weakness, there was real problems, and there was real issues. And then Patrick, of course, goes to Josh's house, goes to Lamar's house. Joe doesn't even make the playoffs, and they win again. And everyone's like, okay, this is deaded. This is done. Patrick has won 7 playoff games in a row, and 3 of those are the last playoff game Joe, Lamar, or Josh played, where Patrick outplayed them, ended their seasons. All of it. And now we're in December, and folks are like, actually, I'm not sure any of that matters, because I saw Josh Allen catch a touchdown pass, which he didn't. Like, that's like he didn't. He threw a pass. He got lateral to him. Yeah. And I saw him get 3 touchdowns rushing and 3 touchdowns passing. Forget the fact that in the effort to get him that 3rd rushing touchdown, it cost them any chance to win the game. And so I just find it maddening. And I find it I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think there were people in 1993 saying, actually, you know what? Charles Barkley is better than Michael Jordan. Not that he's the MVP, he's better. And if I were starting a team today, I'd take him. And it's what we're seeing every day on shows like mine, including mine. So that's my rant. Now we can do your actual football stuff.
I'm very happy you had that. I'm very happy you came with a rant that you wanted to unload. We're in what am I looking at here? We're in minute 16 of this podcast. I love that.
Well, listen, I know you're pulling double duty today. You got radio, you got a lot going on, so I figured I'd take some off your plate.
But I appreciate that. No, I mean, it's funny because what was it? Oh, it was Whitworth. We were talking like, he was like, in TV, you only have like 15 seconds to make a point typically. And I was joking. I was like, every time someone comes in this podcast, not because you have a podcast of your own, you understand it. Every time there's like a TV person who's like a network person, they always go, hey, do you have time for a quick story? And it's like, yeah, we have time. You could talk for 5 hours. That's having time. Also,
Whitworth's experience on TV is a little different than mine, which is, our show is 2 hours long. The guys who have to do or get to do, I shouldn't say have to, it's awesome, but halftime shows, that is the most halftime pregame. Those are when he gets 90 seconds uninterrupted on postgame, it's got to feel like an hour. I couldn't do it. I don't know if you could tell. I'm not great at being concise. If someone's like, hey, you can do halftime at the Super Bowl, I'd be like, no, I can't, actually. I would not do well at that desk.
I have 2 things to say. Number one, I just read a book on Johnny Carson, and they said that the Tonight Show used to be 2 hours long, and then in contract negotiations, you got it shorted to 1. And they said that was the big swerve in TV history, because network nighttime shows used to just be this like unwieldy, like, let's just sit on the couch and BS for 30 minutes, or let's have an author on and just talk about whatever, talk about doing drugs, whatever. Let's just talk about some weird stuff. It was almost like a podcast. And then it goes to an hour, and then it becomes most famous actor in America, second most famous actor in America. Everything's tightly controlled. And then we're done. We're out. Like, we hit the band and we're out. Monologue, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. And so now with cable and your shows and all of these shows now, we're returning back to what it should be, which is we're just kind of doing what needs to be said. We're having these debates, these discussions. And I think that's more important than the tightly controlled world of network television.
Listen, I love it. It is when first things first started 7.5 years ago, by the way, unbelievable. It was 3 hours long. It was a 3-hour-long show that started at 6:30 a.m. We got into the office in Midtown Manhattan at 4 a.m. every day. And then post-COVID, when we went back in studio and went to the afternoons, the show was 90 minutes long. And I was like, I don't know that I can do this. Like, I don't know that that's enough time. And then it's like, man, PTI's been the best show for 20 years. It's a half hour. And then about 6 months ago, they were like, hey, we're giving you an extra half hour back. And it's so funny how quickly things change. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus, man, it's a lot now. It was like, I don't know if I can fill for this extra half hour. You just instantly adjust to what it is.
You mentioned the conciseness. I've actually got much better at it. I actually just met with someone from a TV show that I go on, and they were like, your greatest strength is you actually answer the question without a preamble, and there's way too many preambles in television. This is what this person said to me. And so now I'm thinking like, all right, if you just say, like, I had a semi-viral moment last summer where Laura at Rutledge was like, do you like the pairing between Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers? And I said, no, I don't. And I just let it hang. And like, it was, no one ever does that. And so it was funny. Yes. And obviously I was vindicated, but like, yes, you can be, being concise can be funny when the answer is literally just, no, I don't.
And also it's kind of what we learned in creative writing growing up, which is whatever your thesis statement is, have it right off the top and then explain it from there. Oh, you were saying and then add it. Sure. But like, it's just the worst thing you can be on, not that this is, and again, we can get to the other stuff. The worst thing you can be on TV is confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, even if they disagree with you, they need to know where you stand or whatever it is. And as far as TV notes, the best note that I ever got from anybody is television is preparing all day to say something and then looking like you just thought of it. Wow. And I was like, oh, that's exactly right. I was like, because when you watch TV and the people who you can tell, oh, you didn't prepare at all. You are just thinking of this. That doesn't work. And the people, and I won't name names here, but who you're like, bro, you practiced that 6 times in the mirror an hour ago and we can feel it. That doesn't work either. So it's like getting all the info, getting all the data, and then just being able to reflexively have a conversation is what it is. And listen, I'm not acting like I'm great at it. But that is, I've always thought about that note. That note was super helpful.
It's a great note.
Yeah.
You'll be seeing that all summer long. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words. Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Let's get to some football stuff. Kirk Cousins. So first of all, I can't believe the victory lap among certain Twitter people or whomever, pundits, whatever, where it's like, well, the Falcons saw this coming. They signed Kirk Cousins. So now you gave $90 million guaranteed to what amounts to a bridge quarterback. And then it's the worst of both worlds because the whole thing was, well, Penix will play when he's ready. Now he's going to play as a rookie. Oh, he's not going to have any pressure on him because he's going to get a long time to develop. No. He's playing in week 16. So now the pressure is on him in a small sample size to get them back in the playoff hunt, to look better than Kirk Cousins. I understand Kirk Cousins doesn't look good, but you're the team that signed him. I will never in my life, don't ever, if you're over the age of 30, tell me an Achilles isn't a big deal. I will never believe that excuse again because now we have 2 data sets on that. I cannot believe that anyone thinks this is anything other than a disaster. And everybody's saying, well, they knew it. They knew there was a risk, so they went out. There's a reason people don't buy 2 houses, Nick, in case one of them has a leak. You can do that.
No, I mean, this is right. I was going to go to a different analogy, but it's like if you had a friend who had resources but limited resources. It's like, hey, and he's like, hey, I just bought the most expensive car that was at that dealership. And you're like, oh, congratulations. And he's like, yeah, it's a classic, but I love it. And you know what I mean? And I have one other pile of money that I'm going to use. Probably I got to repave the driveway. And then a few months later, he's like, hey, what'd you do with that? And he's like, I bought a car I'm going to build in case the other one breaks. I'm going to have it. And you're like, well, what about don't you need the driveway? And it's like, no, you don't get it. That super expensive car that I love, I'm a little worried. And in that case, I have this thing I'm going to build in that. And so here's the other, there's so many pieces of it. Maybe your analogy was better. I don't know. I like mine.
It's the same. It's basically the same. Yours is more eloquent. I like it.
They are doing this at the worst possible time.
Yeah. Yes.
Because for a number of reasons. One is, in addition to all of this whole, they knew this could be a problem. Sneaky important piece of this, they gave Cousins a no trade.
Yeah.
So if someone did want to trade for him, Kirk gets an extra $10 million fifth day of the league year. So he can just be like, nope, I reject it. You guys have to cut me. So that's a disaster. They also now open the chance that if Penix struggles for 3 weeks, the fans, everyone's bummed instead of next year having the optimism of it. And you are benching Kirk at his absolute nadir. Like maybe he would. It's not like he's been awful in every game. Oddly, it's really just been the Bucs games. He's been awesome. He has 8 touchdowns and 1 pick in those 2 games and 10 touchdowns the rest of the season. But maybe he bounces back and maybe somebody's interested. But no, it's they're gonna end up having paid him $90 million for 14 games of football, and that's a disaster. That's the Trey Lance pick is a disaster. Full stop. It's not, well, maybe if they hadn't done, they drafted Purdy. It's like those are totally separate transactions and decisions. And so the Cousins thing is, crippling for them. And there was a real opportunity cost to them not getting any snaps from the 8th overall pick. Like, what would the Falcons be a game better right now with Jared Verse? I don't know. And if they were so there's just so many reasons the process was disastrous then, and it's only verified now. So I agree with you entirely.
Here's the problem with the Falcons right now. They're going to have 3 games where Michael Penix is going to have a lot of pressure on him. So the first one is against the Giants. The Giants stink. They're tanking. I don't know. I guess there's some weird, I've been reading about it. There's some weird internal push to quell Joe Shane criticism. I think they want to keep him. I don't know. It sounds like Brian Daboll's on his way out, whatever. You lose to that team, that's a disaster. The second game is a road primetime game against Jaden Daniels, another rookie quarterback. You have to at least look competent because Jaden Daniels is going to look good. And also people are saying now that Cliff Kingsbury is fading or whatever. And so there's actually, they'll probably look good. And by the way, the Falcons have no pass rush. And so they'll be able to, Jaden Daniels will be able to complete a bunch of big chunk plays. Okay. So you're going to have a direct comparison with another young quarterback. And then the last game of the year, maybe there'll be playoff implications, maybe there won't be, is against Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. And you cannot get outdueled by Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers going into an offseason in which everybody says you should have won the division this year, but certainly should win it next year. And so it is a completely unwinnable war unless Michael Penix comes out and looks incredible, in which case maybe they should have done this weeks ago. There is no way in my mind this comes out looking good for anybody.
So here, this is the last thing I'll say on it. They should beat the Giants because everyone should beat the Giants.
And the Giants would like them to beat them.
And the Giants would like them to beat them. The Panthers seem to come off their high watermark this weekend. Like, I thought they were going to beat Dallas. I'm a semi-professional sports bettor, and I took the Panthers laying points when it was the first time they'd been favored in 2 years and thought I was on the sharp side of it. But so that, they kind of crashed back down this week. Obviously, Washington's a tough game, but Washington's a team that has shown you they can lay an egg. So, like, there is a chance, an absolute chance that Atlanta runs the table here. I'm not saying I'm picking it, but there's a real chance. And if they run the table, they need Tampa to slip up once they can make the playoffs. That won't change at all what a disastrous process this is and why bad franchises stay bad franchises. Yes. Now, again, if Penix is great, it'll paper over this stuff. Sure. But still, even in that case, you didn't get the most, obviously, out of his rookie season. You didn't get the most out of your salary cap. So
you spent $90 million guaranteed on a guy that is not a pass rusher.
Yeah, so you spent $90 million guaranteed on a guy who somebody created a fake stat, just total fake news, and then immediately said he did it, which is Kirk Cousins, in this game, didn't throw a pass that cranked 36 miles per hour. And it was so obviously fake. Yeah. And the guy immediately said it was fake. Yet I think all of us were
Everybody believed it.
I think it's probably true. Like, I know the guy is saying it's not true, but that's one of those things that I think it's probably, I bet if they did check it, that would be true.
100% correct. Quick hitters. Should an NFL team have hired Bill Belichick?
I mean, yeah. I think that this is a crazy turn of events. And I am baffled that he was so certain he wasn't getting a job that he went to Carolina. And I don't care what any of the spin is from anybody. If he thought there was a good chance he was getting an NFL job, he doesn't go to North Carolina. And I don't think he would have been I think it would have been a terrible hire for the Bears. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll disagree on this, but my feeling on that is you don't want to guarantee that Caleb Williams during, the early part of his career and then into his prime has at least 3 head coaches, and hiring a 72-year-old would guarantee that. But I think it would have been a good hire for the Giants. I think that if he would have done it, I'm shocked he would have. It would have been a great hire for the Jets. I think it would make a lot of sense for the Cowboys. And I understand the Giants and the Cowboys still have head coaches right now. So I think that was I really would like to find out how much poison has been spit in the ear of the other owners by Robert Kraft. Mm-mm. Because we know that he kind of went out of his way to spoil the well with the Falcons. And it's hard for me to believe no one wanted Bill Belichick unless there was something else going on.
It's a good thought. And also, I think there's just a lot of people imagining the consequences of hiring Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick made it clear he would work within a system, but then every owner said, oh, I don't know, if we hire Bill Belichick, he's going to want full power. And it's Belichick's like, no, I wouldn't. And yet, there's just so much, baggage is the wrong word, but there's so many tentacles of hiring Bill Belichick that I think it worries a lot of people. It worries the cap guy. It worries, I think there's a lot of people who would look at Belichick's hiring and go, this is really going to affect my power. Or I just think there's a lot.
I think it's 100% true. So yes. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of people with an organization that a lot of people's number one job is keeping their job.
Yes.
And that doesn't always lead to, you know what I mean, the best results.
That's always my take is somebody said this to me one time, and I think about it all the time, anytime you're why did this team make this move? Remember that in any sport, football or otherwise, the number one thought going through anybody's head is probably same as in media is kids' tuition bills are due next year. I got this mortgage. I got to pave my driveway, to your earlier analogy. Yeah. That's the number one thought before we get into, is this going to help the team? It's, is my kids' preschool going to be paid for? And that is the most, always put yourself in that mindset. All right. Last thing. Is there a coach, GM, anybody that is not picking up enough heat in this cycle?
Wow. Oh my goodness. I have to do the thing where I don't know if this is how you do stuff whenever you're going to
Google
lists.
NFL standings?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I always just I go division by division.
I do all the time. So we did a thing. We had Joe Fortenbaugh and I yesterday did a firing draft where we drafted guys who should get fired. It was great. It was a great exercise.
Firing draft. Wow, yeah. That's nothing.
Joe
says
Shane was number one.
Christmas around the corner. All right. So, do I have to give you one, or can I just I go through? All right,
as much as you like.
I got 2 in the AFC East.
Okay.
The Dolphins and the Patriots. The Patriots, because I think Mayo's gotten heat, but I don't know who's in charge there. I don't know who's in charge.
Elliot
of the front
Wolf,
office.
I think, is the GM.
Yeah, but it was weird. It was. I know that he's the GM, but even the draft process seemed like Kraft's kid had a big say in that. That always works. Miami, they eyes wide open. They gave 2 of that contract. And I said beforehand, I was like, I've been grading Mike McDaniel on a curve because I think he is making the most out of a very limited quarterback. But if he signs off on them paying him like he's a star, then that curve is removed. And it's like, no, you have a star quarterback. Why aren't you better? And so I think Miami, and he got his contract extension, so good for him. No one in the AFC North, AFC South, no. AFC West, No, I mean, I think the Raiders are catching heat as they should be. Jerry Jones, I think he does catch a lot of heat. Though.
Jerry Jones should catch heat.
I think he catches a lot of heat.
Where are we? It's funny because the Colts, I think Chris Ballard should be fired, but I also looked it up yesterday, and that's now a mainstream Indianapolis take.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah.
Chris Ballard, Chris
Ballard hasn't been good in 5 years. He was really good 5 years ago.
A little skeptical of the GM who it seems a disproportionate number of media members know his name. And so
I would do you one better.
Okay.
I would be skeptical of any assistant GM who for years before getting a GM job, they knew his name as well.
So, yeah. So
I think there's a lot of that where it's like, oh, this number 2 is really well respected around the league. How do you know that? By the way, very few number 2s and number 3s are well respected around the league because they work in one spot. You don't know if someone is good. Like it's just a very funny. Whenever you hear of a number 3, I'm just going to give you guys a little secret. Okay, and this is not specific to Chris Ballard. When you see a list of GM and coaching candidates,
it's actually a source list.
Not 100%.
It's actually you drop in a few to throw people off the scent, but
92%.
It's just yeah. I mean so that is yeah. It's just like that's I guess how the sausage is made. It's like you know what I mean. Give me the all important. God, the world would stop spinning on its axis. 30-second heads up on banal transactions. And I'll make sure, that, a guy that people love is such and such. And so, that's an interesting one. I'm going to throw one more out. I just had it, and then I put the standings down, and I forgot. Can I just, before we go, can I just ask you one question?
Yeah, please.
It's about Brock Purdy.
Okay.
So I think that the conversation of, listen, if he would take 50, like I'd do it. But if he wants Dak money, I wouldn't.
60, yeah.
Is nonsensical because I don't think there's a quarterback in the league that you're paying that. You take every quarterback in the league and be like, if I'm paying him $50 million, I would feel good about it. But if I'm paying him 60, I'd be like, God, I'm screwed. Like, I think it's binary almost. Like, obviously you'd like to pay less, but I think is he the guy or is he not the guy? And that's not a 50-60. That's either make him play for $1 million or pay him whatever it takes to keep him. And so go ahead.
I think Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers' availability is going to be very intriguing for Kyle Shanahan. Very intriguing.
You think Kyle might want Kirk at this point? I know he's always wanted him. You really think that's still in play?
Kirk at $25 million or less because he can't move versus Brock Purdy at 60, kick the quarterback decision down the road. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I still think Michael Silver was on the show 2 weeks ago, and he said
I listened.
He's 90% sure, not 90%, but like he doesn't really think this has changed their thinking, but that they love those guys. And the Shanahan tree loves Kirk Cousins. They love Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like when I was doing that LaFleur story a couple of years ago, I think it was either McVay or McDaniel was like, we used to fantasize, hey, what would it be like to have Aaron Rodgers in our offense? And I know he's diminished. My feeling is it's like the Joker scene with the pool sticks. Like we have one opening.
Yeah.
You just say, you know what? I've got a 2-year, $60 million deal. So 30 a year on the table. Brock Purdy, you're welcome to take it. Aaron Rodgers. That's probably too much for Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins, whatever. Like someone just take this and we have the pool stick.
If after this season, Kyle Shanahan signs Kirk Cousins, then I am going to operate under the belief that on the other ankle that he has the Chris Sims initials tattooed, he has Kirk Cousins initials tattooed. Because that would be a love affair for the ages.
That's a good place to leave it. Nick Wright, catch him on FS1. We're gonna hang out. We're all gonna hang out Danny Parkins soon in Westchester, New York.
Shout out Danny Parkins. Yeah, you guys live in the suburb life. I'm living on the mean streets of Manhattan. Come down, watch some football, go get a meal. It'd be great.
I didn't know he said it. Justin Pugh told me he said it, that all the Giants writers went out to the Heisman availability, and the Cam Ward said, I would love New York, but I would never step foot in Manhattan. Like, I actually kind of like, he's like a Texas kid. He doesn't, he just wants to hang out on some, huge estate in Summit or whatever.
Is Cam Ward the number 2 quarterback in the class? Is he number one quarterback?
He's the number one. He's the number one.
All right. Sorry Syracuse ruined your season. Love you. See you, Casey.
All right. Bye.